What's up, Lions? Here we are with another podcast for you. This is Restore the Roar. And if you are not subscribed to it, you got to hit that subscribe button. Like, love, share. Liking is the right thing. Sharing is caring. And for those who are actually in our exclusive community on Skool, I just want to let you know, I'm telling you, you're about to truly be impacted in a major way. I have my good friend, amazing friend, Dr. Luis Ariaza, in the building. As you can see right here, he's ready to go. He's locked in. He's ready to rock and roll. I'm telling you, you want to actually take some notes. So go ahead and get a pen and a pad. I'll let you get a little time, pen and a pad, while I tell you a little bit about my friend, Dr. Luis. Dr. Luis was born and raised in South Central LA to immigrant parents who never had, get this, guys, more than a sixth grade education. So for those of you who are out there and say, oh, if my mom and my dad just gave me more, let me tell you, his mom and his dad only had a sixth grade education. Both parents motivated him to pursue higher education. And Dr. Luis graduated at the age of 24 as the only Latino doctor of chiropractic in his class. He was already a trendsetter, okay? So thanks to a mentor, he was able to open 7 health centers in the 7 years after his graduation. That is big. 7. Think about that, guys. This is a lot of work. This is a lot of grit. This is a lot of expertise going to actually expand to 7. Now, by the time he was 28, he and his wife, his beautiful wife, Avelia, were multi-millionaires already. But there's a big turning point in his life. He had his very first son. And when he had his very first son, he said, hey, listen, there's got to be more to life than working 12 to 14 hours a day. So during this time, he was introduced to the amazing industry of network marketing. And he and his wife, Avelia, realized that MLM was the only way that they could live a good lifestyle without sacrificing time for his family or time with his family. So over the last decade, I'm telling you, this man and his wife have not just opened 7 chiropractic offices. They actually pivoted and transitioned and said, we want to impact more than just our lives. And get this, guys, they have built an army of over 800,000 distributors across the world. And they are what we call Spartan Nation. And that's really a nation. Let me tell you, I mean, think about it. If you think some cities are just 300,000 people, the city that we have our nonprofit in, it only has 40,000 people. And so he has built the city 20 times over, 800,000. It's amazing. So why I'm telling you this is because you're listening to somebody who has expertise. He has passion. He understands systems. He understands what it takes to be successful. He understands what it's like to restore the roar in life, in love, in leadership, and legacy. And so those of you who are with us, put your hands together. I know I can't see you. No, we can't hear you, but put your hands together for Dr. Luis Ariaza. Doctor, to see you.
How are you? How are you, Pastor?
I am amazing. I'm amazing. I'm so grateful to have you on today. And this beautiful Southern California Thursday that we have here. What's going good in your world right now?
It's been a good morning. I think I was sharing with you just a little bit. And before I get started, I'm always grateful to people like you, because I know that you have the opportunity to call upon many leaders, right? Different leaders in different fields who can bring a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. So thank you so much for inviting me here. And I really hope and pray that somebody out there, whether they see it or they hear it, they take something from it. My mentor would always tell me this, and it was, I've had 3 mentors in my life. I've been mentored for 31 years. And my first mentor, who mentored me for 19 years, he said, this is the first thing that he made me memorize. He said, you never know how far reaching what you may say, think, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. It's better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. Get the big idea and all else will follow. And ever since I memorized that when I was 25 years old, I'm very intentional when I do anything in front of people, because we never know. We never know where people may be. We never know what phase of their life they may be in. We never know what type of struggles they may be going through.
Right.
And you and I know that even though when they're going through struggles, they're going to show up and they're going to put on this facade and it's going to look okay, but inside they could be breaking down. And so I don't take these interviews lightly. So thank you so much, my dear friend, for inviting me to this podcast. So yeah, this morning has been great. Had a great workout. Sat in the sauna. Did my cold plunge. Took my boys to school. My youngest one has a biology test today, so science was one of my forte in school. So I was able to go, kind of go over things with him on the way home. My middle son has a big game tomorrow, so sat and watched them go through their walkthroughs and came home. My middle son is in the gym running. He's an avid runner. And my wife is taking a nap right now, which I love. I love.
That is
so
good.
God is really good.
That is very good, man. And I'm excited that you're sharing part of it, because the men that are listening to this, we all have families and we all have a vision for our family. And, one of the things that I love about you is that you always bring value. You're always making sure that people are okay around you. Since I've known you, I remember meeting you in just like a little small mastermind in Rancho Cucamonga, like 12 years ago. And
Right.
The thing about you is that you always make sure that people feel amazing about themselves. Where does that come from? Like, why that? I mean, there's some people that get to your stature or your success at such a young age, and they kind of have like this, stargazing type of situation where they walk in and nobody can touch them and nobody can, where does your ability to reach out and pull people in and speak to the greatness in people come from? Where does that come from?
That's a great question. And there's probably several folds to that. I saw my mom and dad, they didn't have much. My parents migrated from Central America, gosh, almost 70 years ago. My mom has a fifth grade education. Well, she passed. My dad had sixth grade education. And every time people would come over, I would always see that, specifically my mom, she was a great host. We didn't have much, but the little that we had, do you want something to drink? Do you want something to eat? And just watching and observing her at a very, very young age, in my mind, I was just programmed that you want to be a host. You want to make people feel welcome. And as I progressed and I joined the circuit of entrepreneurship, I realized that we are where we are because of people. And the person with the healthiest relationships is going to win. And so for my wife and I, we never, ever read our own newspaper. We don't buy into the hype, regardless of our organization, regardless of the money that we make, regardless of our lifestyle. If you are around us, then we're going to serve you. And and we feel very comfortable doing that. Doesn't matter. It's interesting because when we go places and we're with our organization, the last thing they want to do is see us serve people, and they'll stop us. And we truly, sincerely don't want them to serve us. We want to serve them because our lifestyle is because of them. It's because of all the people that surround us and the people that help us and the people that find value in what we have to say. So for us to host, to serve, to be kind, it's just what we do. We find tremendous joy in doing those things.
I love it. Thank you so very much for sharing that. So let's go into one of your amazing quotes. When the promise is clear, price easy. Never negotiate your price to magnify your promise. Talk to us about that. What?
Yep. It stems from the and I'm not on no level a Bible scholar, but I do read the Bible quite a bit, and I do memorize. I have a thing with memorizing, right? And I do memorize verses that impact me. And as it says in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you, to give you hope and bright future. So we all have a divine design. We all have something that we're going to contribute and we're going to serve people with, something that's going to not forget becoming a millionaire, but something that's going to make us feel worthy. Something's going to make us feel valuable. And that's the promise. And so everyone has a promise. Unfortunately, many people live their entire lives and never connect with their promise. So they struggle and they go through all these crises, and they attract all this drama because they never ever connect with their promise. When you connect with the promise, you know when you've connected with your promise, because even regardless of how much money you're making, regardless of your lifestyle, you're excited, right? You're looking forward to it. You wake up early, you go to bed late, you're sharing it with everyone. People may oppose you, people may ridicule you, and it doesn't matter because your eyes are set on that prize, right? The promise is clear. And when our promise is clear, then the price that we have to pay to fulfill that promise is easy. The reason people find, from my perspective, the reason people find life so difficult, the reason people find work so difficult, the reason why people labor and they just don't enjoy it, is because they're not in their promise. So if you're in a promise, we're ecstatic. I do leadership like 3-4 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week. I'm preparing. Like, I have books right here. This is not a back screen. This is my office.
Right.
I'm reading, studying, listening, watching all day long. I'm not thinking, oh, okay, I put in an hour, I put in 12. It's a passion of mine.
Yeah.
My gorgeous wife, she has many talents. One of her many talents is event planning. And when you see her, she is in the zone. She's in her promise. So whether she has to work late, whether she's doing things late, whether she's driving to LA to the flower market, whatever, it's so joy filled. So when the promise is clear, the price is easy. Don't negotiate the price. Magnify the promise. The world is going to want you to negotiate the price. The enemy is going to try to want you to negotiate the price. The world, your friends, your family are going to tell you why you shouldn't work so hard, or why you shouldn't, give so many hours. But see, the dreams, the promise that you and I have, you have a promise, I have a promise. My promise is mine. People outside of me, they're not supposed to understand my promise because it's given to me. It's been bestowed to me. So therefore, when we don't have that, the price is too difficult. People around us are telling us it's too difficult. So we have always said for almost 30 years, when the promise is clear, the price is easy. Connect, find, attract, discover the promise, because then the things that you're going to have to do to develop that, it's going to be a lot easier.
That's so good. I love the way that you put that. When the promise is clear, the price is easy. So talk to us about, how do you find that promise? Because there's one of the things that I know about some of the guys that are here, man, they've been in some dire straits, so it's like, they've been hustling, they've been grinding, they've been trying to figure out, how to just get paid. Forget about a promise. Like, I just need to get paid. Like, I need to pay my bills. I need to pay my kids' school fees, or, I need to provide for my family. Like, how do you find that promise and connect it to getting paid? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so there's phases that people are in, right? So I deal with, as you said, we have an organization of over 800,000 people. So all day long, I'm sitting with people, I'm listening to people, and I love that. I love listening to people because I believe that I bring value to people, right? And the greatest value we can bring is solving people's problems. And a problem is very simple. Everyone's problems are the same. It's just a story that we've conjured up. That's all a problem is, a story. So we have to have a bigger, better, more clear story than theirs, so then we can begin solving the problem. So if people are in a situation where they have to make ends meet, like now, right? They're in that phase. We're going to call that the emergency phase, right? The 911 phase, right? Where they have to make, then God bless you, man. Do whatever you got to do. Put your ego aside and do whatever it is that you have to do to get money now. But that may be your 9 to 5, but your 5 to 9 is your promise, right? So your 9 to 5 may be the things that you need to do to keep the creditors off your back. It may be the things you need to do to keep your rent or your lease or your mortgage paid, your lights on, gas in the car. There is no shame in anything you do. And whatever it is that you're doing, do it to your fullest. That's your 9 to 5. But don't come home, take a shower, have dinner, watch ESPN for 3-4 hours, or get on TikTok for 3-4 hours and think that you're going to accomplish goals. No, your desire and your internal battery has to be at the same level. You can't have a massive desire with a mediocre battery. It doesn't work. So therefore, you have to say, okay, so this is what's putting food on the table at this moment. That's fine. That may not be your purpose. That is completely okay. But what is your promise? But what's your passion, right? What excites you? What motivates you? What inspires you? That's your 5 to 9. And you have to grind that out. And at first it may be just you. It may be just you and your wife. It may be just you and a buddy just knocking it out. Don't worry. Don't look for the recognition. Don't look for the promotion. Don't look for the success at the beginning. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. It's the law of average. It's the law of mediocre gains, right? You're going to grow it little by little. But so for people that are in the state where they need to, that financial desperate state, I encourage you right now, do whatever. And there's so many things that you can do. There's so many, as they call it, the gig economy. There's so many little gigs that you can do that's going to put food on the table, that's going to put money in your pocket immediately. Don't get married to that though. Okay. You want to keep your eyes on the prize. You want to make sure that you delineate what you're doing to survive versus what you're doing to add purpose. And this is your 5 to 9. This is what you have to do to get out there. I clearly remember when my wife and I had just opened a couple chiropractic offices. Yes. I mean, we opened our first office. Yeah. I had no money. I opened it with a credit card, and with a friend, with a mom. The mom of one of my best friends loaned me a credit card, $10,000 on the credit card, and she says, "I'm gonna give you this. I want it back in a year with no money, nothing owed on it." So I had no money for marketing. I had no money for, this is 30 years ago. So there's like the yellow pages. I had no money for any of that. So what did I do is I bought one of those old school tents, right? The ones that you'd have to fix with the bungee cords with a gray top and the poles. Yeah. And I went to the swap meet. Every Monday, every Saturday and Sunday. I did that for 1 whole year. Chiropractors, doctor friends of mine would call me and laugh and ridicule. Some would be upset. They're like, "Gosh, you went to school for 7 years to go to the swap meet." I said, "Hey, I got to do what I got to do." I said, "But you're sitting in your office thinking that miraculously patients are going to walk in. No, you got to go and get them." My mentor would tell me, "You got to go and get these people." So I did that for an entire year, every Saturday and Sunday. During the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would close my office at 12 o'clock. I would reopen at 3. At 12 o'clock, before I could eat lunch, my mentor would make me put my plastic spine, the model, on my back, carrying it. I'd go to the mall and I would have to get rejected 30 times Monday, Wednesday, and Friday before I'd have lunch. Now, I was a student of my mentor. I didn't know what was actually happening. What was actually happening to me is he was teaching me how to become immune to rejection while at the same time building my practice. At the end of the first year, I was seeing about 180 patients a day while my chiropractic peers were struggling to pay their bills. Why? Because it didn't matter. I had no shame, whether it was at a corner, at a swap meet, at a farmer's market, at a health fair. I was sharing the good story of chiropractic because that was my hustle while I was developing my purpose. And my purpose was sharing, changing people's lives through the spoken word. But I focused on that hustle, and it didn't matter what people thought. It didn't matter what people said to me. So for those men that need to get the hustle, go find a hustle, regardless of what people say, regardless of how you think you may look. Go and get that hustle, but stay focused on that 5 to 9.
Man, that's so good. And what I hear you saying is desire plus discipline produces your dreams. That's what it means. It means that when you have a desire, you have a purpose, you have a dream, you have this wonderful promise, you got to employ discipline with it. That's what you did. I mean, discipline really, really, truly gave you the ability, I like what you said, to become immune to rejection. And, putting that that ego aside, because your ego is not your ego, right?
That's right.
And I love it because it really is a testament to where you are today. You know, you don't just dream up and desire up 7 chiropractic offices in 7 years. You know, you don't just, borrow somebody's $10,000 card and then just, squander it and you just become a billionaire, millionaire
Yeah.
the way that you're, but so,
No overnight
you know,
success.
I want us to talk about that ego though, because that's what that pride, that men have, that sometimes keep them imprisoned to a
Yep.
lower level of life that they could be
Yes.
actually experiencing more in life. The mediocrity that men kind of go into because they feel like, "Oh, I'm working so hard." And one of the things I tell people is that your best is not enough. You got to do what's required. You can't
Mhm.
just, "I'm doing my best." No, you got to do what's required. So talk to us about killing that ego. Like, how do you set that aside? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. So the way I share this with people, and you're right, ego is the greatest enemy. Ego is the greatest distraction, right?
Mhm.
And the voice of ego is our emotions.
Mm,
And emotions is a conflict of all truth. Can I repeat this again?
mm.
Emotions is a conflict of all truth.
Wow.
There is no man that's going to hear this or watch this that doesn't know what to do. Everyone knows what to do,
Mm,
my friend. Everyone knows deep down inside what they do. They're probably not doing it because of the emotions, because of the
mm,
ego, right? Because
mm,
our ego is going to tell us why we shouldn't. Things are going to be too difficult. Time has passed us. We're too young, or we're too old, or we're too dark, or we're too light, or we're too big, or we're too thin, or we don't look this way, or we don't dress this way. That is all. That is all the ego. So there comes a point in our lives, all of us, where we have to find what is our calling, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
my mentor shared this with me a long time ago. I think I've talked to you about this.
mhm,
The 3 crises that we come across in our lifetime. The
mhm.
first crisis we come across is somewhere between the ages of 18 to 25, and that is the identity crisis.
Yeah.
Who we are, what we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to contribute to the world. The second crisis occurs somewhere between 35 to 40, maybe 45. That is our reality crisis. That is when we realize, my friend, that you and I are not going to play for the Lakers. We're not going to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're not going to be models in France, right? And the third crisis occurs somewhere in your late 50s, early 60s, and that's called the mortality crisis. And that's when you realize that you're not going to live forever. The greatest challenge is that most men never graduate from their identity crisis. Most
Mm,
men never ever find out what is it that God wants them to do. How best can God use you? You see, our businesses, they are businesses,
yeah.
and we make a lot of money and we help a lot of people. But for my wife and I, they're ministries.
Mm,
There are ways that we serve Christ. There are ways that we serve God, and there's always a little sprinkle of His message. There's always a sprinkle of His word in everything that we do, right?
mhm,
So therefore, there comes a moment where you, a person, a man, has to sit by themselves, which is very hard for men to do sometimes. Sit by themselves and just try to clear their mind and see what is the purpose that God has for me. And when you find that purpose,
mm,
now the ego begins to kind of settle a little bit, right?
mhm,
Because thoughts is the language of the mind, feelings is the language of the body.
mhm,
So when we find that purpose here, when we find that purpose and we make the body submit, then we're gonna do what we're supposed to do. As long as our feelings, our emotions, our ego is getting the better of us, our emotions, our feelings are going to tell our mind what to do. When the emotions are the master and the mind is the servant, now we're going to be very, very complicated. We're going to be stuck. We're going to feel like things aren't working out. We're going to feel very discouraged. We're going to feel very frightful. We're going to have anxiety and panic attacks. All those things come from the emotions, which is governed by the ego. So
mm,
if we say, okay, this is what I know, what this is what we're going to do, right? And we create the plan and we pursue it. sooner or later, your feelings, your emotions, your ego, sooner or later, it just starts to kind of shrink, because regardless of how we feel, you're still going to do it. I remember you did like a 75-day challenge, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure at the beginning there were moments that you didn't want to wake up, but you were committed, so you woke up.
Yeah.
There are moments probably that you didn't want to go to the gym, but you were committed. You're holding yourself accountable, and you got to the gym. Right? But
Yep.
there came a moment. There's a moment where whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 30 days, that it just gets a little easier.
Mhm.
And the reason it's a little easier is because the emotions, your ego says, well, gosh, you're going to do it anyway, so I just better. I can't win this battle.
Yeah.
About a week ago, when I started to go to the pool and just jump in, it was a battle. It was a battle of oh, I don't want to, but I need to. I got to get this cold on me, but it's going to be so uncomfortable. Today, which was colder than any other day in the last week, I just walked out, jumped in, and it was the easiest, because I feel that my body, my feelings, my emotions, my ego has subsided, because I'm going to do it regardless.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you get to that point, when you get to the point where you're functioning that way, the ego begins to kind of quiet down a little bit, and you're going to sense it. You're going to feel it within yourself, because we're not going to have this. The duality is going to lessen. It's going to decrease a lot. You're going to be more clear with what you have to do every single day, and that's when you know that the ego has shrunk a little bit.
Man, I hope that you all are getting this. Many of you may be seeing me, look down this because I'm taking notes. Okay, look at that already. Look at that already. We've only been in for 26 minutes and I got at least a page of notes, right now. So I love this, what you're talking about. So, talk to us now about that moment, because you talked about the promise and you talked about your purpose. You spent a large amount of years going to school. You spent
Yeah,
money to go to school.
yeah,
You borrowed money to start chiropractic offices. You've
mhm,
expanded offices. You expanded teams. You provided not just for your family, but you provided for several of your staff members and their
mhm,
livelihood. But there's this shift and there's this change that even though you were successful, multimillionaires, probably could go anywhere in the world that you desired to, but you were stuck. You were shackled to your business. And
mhm,
Robert Kiyosaki, he has this, the four quadrants, the cash flow quadrants. You have the E quadrant, which means that you're an employee. You have the S quadrant, which means that you're self-employed. The B quadrant, which means that you're a business owner. I quadrant, which is your investors quadrant. And so you find yourself in this really B quadrant,
mhm.
um, but you find yourself, okay, I know that there's something more to me. So what was it like to step away from something that you have
Mhm,
sacrificed in, to
mhm.
start in a whole different direction? Because
Mhm.
chiropractic and MLM, I mean, it's not like, okay, it's a natural progression. Like there's certain skill sets that you have to learn, in order to actually be successful in both of
Mhm.
them. So tell us about that time where you had to make that critical decision where I'm going to walk away from the things that my
Mhm.
mom encouraged me to do, that I actually did, and that we were
Mhm.
actually successful at, to go and pivot in a different direction.
Sure. So this really began when I was super young. From the age of 1 to the age of 7, a person develops their life script. Okay.
Mm,
So from the age of 1 to the age of 7, between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, there's no filter. So
mhm,
everything that you see becomes true. Everything that comes in through the five senses, what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, what you touch, comes in, and it forms a paradigm, forms a program in your subconscious mind. By the time you're 25, 30 years old, 97% of all your decisions do not come from your executive center, they come from your subconscious mind.
mm,
So what I saw when I was very, very young
mm,
is my parents working all day.
mm,
So what I saw when I was very, very young is, Friday night to Sunday morning, my dad being an alcoholic.
mm,
So I was programmed to see that. That was my reality. But there came a point in my life when I said, okay, that is what I'm aware of that. I'm fully aware that I saw these things that for many people that would be called like, whether it's dramatic or traumatic, right? But this is what I saw. But there comes a point when you can assume responsibility. And when you assume responsibility, you also assume the power to change. And that's when I said, no, I don't want that life. I don't want a life, even if it means that I'm making a lot of money, but I don't see my family. I don't want to make money in spite of my family. I want to make money with my family. I want to be present with my wife. I want to be present with my boys, right? So my wife and I, we built these health centers, and then we had our first son. And it was like God pulled that desire to spend 70, 80 hours a week out of me because I wanted to be with my son and my wife. Yet we're both very ambitious. We firmly believe that God has huge plans of prosperity for our lives. That's when I opened myself up. Okay. That's when I opened my mind up to possibilities. And that's when I entered into the profession of network marketing. Now, if you heard me correct. I said profession of network marketing because I didn't become a network marketer like most people. If my wife and I were going to take a calculated risk and leave a $2 to $3 million a year enterprise that we had created, okay, for network marketing, we weren't going to do it by just filling closets and garages with product. We were going to create a profession. So therefore, my wife and I, the first thing I did was found another mentor, right? Because I believe everything's duplicatable. Why try to figure it out if there's people that have already done it? Why put in that time when there's people right now, there's people that are living the life that you want, right? As we say, why not be a copycat? Just make sure you copy the right cat. Just make sure you copy the right individual. No big deal. Everyone does it. So I was very blessed because I came across an Asian man who's a professional network marketer. And again, I stood at his feet just like I did with my first mentor. And he taught me the philosophy, science, and art of becoming a professional network marketer. So my wife and I then proceeded to create a system in network marketing, which is what we've used for 23 years. So that's when we realized our next calling, because chiropractic to us was so spectacular, but we realized that we can touch more lives out of the office than in the office. So in network marketing, it's a platform that we can connect with more people at the same time, right? To impact their lives, to introduce them to a better life, a better way of life, a better lifestyle, bring more value to them, while they make some money. So that transition was very difficult at first because because of my schooling, because of my financial investment, because of my time investment, and because of my ego, you create an identity around what you do, right? But I remember because we were out to dinner and someone said, "Oh, what is it that you do?" And I remember the first time that I said, "Oh, I'm a professional network marketer." And my wife looked at me. I'm like, "Oh, shoot." I said, because I'd always say, "Oh, my doctor of chiropractic." And it was liberating because we had made that transition and it felt good because we were congruent. So yes, it was, I won't say it was challenging, but internally there was a lot that we had to go through in making that transition. But the long-term play was good for us. It was great for us because staying where we were, we wouldn't have had the lifestyle that we wanted because we would have been constrained with time. We would have been limited with time. But when we transitioned over, although it wasn't easy, and there was a patch that you're letting go of this, and this is growing. So there's that little moment that you really have to walk by faith. One of my favorite books that I read every year is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and his second principle is faith. Desire, massive desire, and then second is faith. And you have to take as they call it in Greek, that kairos. You have to take that leap of faith. You have to say, okay, this is going to work out because it's going to work out because this is what I've been called to do. And it worked out for us.
Beautiful. I love this. I love your story. I mean, I know his life, guys. So this is not just fluff. I mean, I've been in his houses, okay? And it's not like, all right, everybody, hurry up and clean up and let's put on our best, attitude, so that we can entertain guests. Look, I've walked into his house and he didn't even know I was there yet, and I've seen the way his wife, talks to their kids. I see the way his kids, his boys talk to one another and also their mother, and then also in the community. We just made a transition and our boys are all at the same school now, which is so cool. And we ended up on our tour running into your youngest, and he was just as hospitable, just as engaging as he was whenever, we showed up to the house. So I love the fact that you all are consistent. And one of the things I want you guys to go and follow Dr. Luis. Okay. You got to go and follow Dr. Luis on Instagram, on Facebook, and all those different things. We're not done with anything yet, but I need you to go follow them, because what you're going to see is real. You're going to see a real family. You're going to see them celebrate. Every time I turn on IG, I'm like, whose birthday is it now? And when they do birthdays, I'm talking about they do birthdays, man. I mean, they celebrate. And so I want to dive into that, because that doesn't just happen overnight. A person of success like you, a person who's impacting the lives of 800,000 plus people. And we could even say if that one person impacts others, you're talking well over 1.6 million people, if they just touch one person each. So I love the fact that you're having this impact, but I really believe it started with, of course, or I could, ask you this, if it started with you and your wife working together. There are men that are listening right now that are entrepreneurs. They're driven. They have a vision. They have a purpose, but maybe their wife isn't necessarily on board, or maybe she isn't as driven, or she isn't as, wired like them. And so it creates a rift. It creates them competing against each other rather than completing with one another. So talk to us about how you and Avelia got together on the same page and how you work together moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a quote by John D. Martinez says that it says the vitality of your life is directly proportional to the vividness of your vision. The energy of your life is directly proportional to the vividness, the clarity. So one thing that my wife and I have done, whether it was in chiropractic, whether it was in our speaking company or investment company or in network marketing or the things that we're doing now, is we would always sit down and talk and be very, very clear with what we were going to do. Because if we're not clear with one another, it can lead to a lot of complications. It can lead to a lot of business. Man, it is not easy out there, right? It's not easy out there. It's when you're recruiting, when you're selling, when you're creating, it's hard. You don't want it to be harder inside your home. You want your home to be a place where you come and you get energized, you get fueled, you get inspired. Not that your wife is going to inspire you, maybe, but just that embrace, just that support, just that smile, and in my case, everything that I have done has been with my wife. Yeah. And I cannot see it any other way, because my wife is a gifted woman. She is just, I tell her every morning, she is the best person I have ever met in my entire life. So I value that. Now, for some of you men, if you don't feel that, okay, start speaking that. Speak life into your wife. And watch how she begins to evolve, right? My wife is that woman. Okay. But although I know that she is that woman, I speak it. I declare. It's something called, we call it DBA. You declare it, you believe it, and you accept it. You declare it, you believe it, and you accept it. And we do that every morning and every evening in our prayer session. We do that. So therefore, it's if your wife, if you believe that your wife isn't giving you that energy, that support, reflect on you, right? What are you doing that may not be eliciting that? And what I've seen is a big part of it is lack of clarity, right? If she's not clear with what you're doing, if she's not clear with the goal, with the task at hand, and where are we going? Where are we going to be in 6 months? Where are we going to be in a year? Where are we going to be in 2 years? Where are we going to be in 3 years? My wife and I, we've been happily married for 27 years. For 27 years, we have written down our goals every year. We have written down goals every single year. As a couple, we've written down our goals. It doesn't mean that now 27 years later, it doesn't mean that we do everything together, but we do a lot of things together. And in our business world, we've done everything together. Okay. Speak life into your wife. Make sure that you're both clear. Make sure that you're both very clear with what your couple goals are, right? So your wife may be doing something, or you may be doing something, but you still need that support, right? She's an outstanding event planner. We're looking for a building because we're going to create an event hall. I'm not going to do most of the work, but I'm still part of the business, though, right? I'm still involved because it's both of us, right? She's the mastermind behind this. She's the one with the vision behind this, but I'm still involved. Yeah. So if you are the mastermind, if you're the one with the vision, don't make it like don't have her feel as though she's an afterthought. Don't have her feel as though she's an employee. I've made that mistake. Yeah. I've made that terrible mistake. But after 27 years, my wife is my partner in everything we do. Doesn't mean we're going to do the same thing, but she is my partner. She is my equal partner in everything we do. And if she feels that way, then she's going to reciprocate by inspiring you and supporting you and being present with you. If she doesn't feel that way, it may not be on her. We got to reflect on ourselves.
Man, that right there, that was a marriage seminar in 3 minutes, man. I'm telling you, that was just powerful. And there's a lot of men that are out there that feeling like they don't have that support. And what he says is what you're saying, Dr. Luis, is so powerful. And it reminds me of the scripture where it talks about how us husbands should water our wives with the water of the word, that we should speak over them, that we should work. We should, there's a lot of things that we could say. There's a lot of frustrations that we could say out of our mouths, and maybe it feels good at the moment, but the reality is that it takes discipline and it takes a vision to speak what you don't see, even in your own life. Like, and I love that you're saying, take responsibility. Like, maybe you aren't clear. Maybe you do need to get clear. Maybe you are all over the place and you need to get some clarity. You need to have one of those sessions, those moments where you are alone, where you do take the afternoon or the morning or the evening to get clear, lock away, turn off all of this just so that you can get clear, because, that's what's blocking the synergy, the vitality, the vividness of the vision is that clutter. I always talk about the heart trash and the head trash. You got to get heart trash and head trash out of your life. How do you do that? You got to forgive. And there's a lot of men that are walking around with the root of bitterness, and still trying to build business, still trying to build legacy and all of those different things. But they got to clear that heart trash out, And so I love that.
May I add something? You have to be very intentional. Yeah. My wife and I, this is June 14th, we just celebrated 27 years. Wow. Our last year has been the best year of our marriage.
Wow.
But we've made major changes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you 7 nights a week. I'm not going to say that because I'd be lying. But I'd say the majority of our time, we fellowship and Bible study every night together. Okay. Yeah. We read and I can't recall the name of it. I believe it's called Kingdom Marriage book. It's a little orange book. It's a little orange book.
Yeah.
And we read one scroll a night. And some of those scrolls are because it's a story, and then it's 3 questions, and then it's a prayer.
Yeah.
And many of those are very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it sheds light on where you're not doing your best. It sheds light on where, as a husband, we're not fulfilling that role. But when you're intentional, then you're not afraid to be wrong.
Yeah.
When you're intentional, then you're not afraid to maybe look a little weak, or maybe soft, as some people would call it.
Yeah.
Because your intention is to be better as a couple, right? So you have to be very, very intentional, and you have to be okay with being transparent and vulnerable. And there's a lot for men, there's a lot emotional risk in vulnerability. You got to hang that up, because that's where the beauty occurs.
Yeah.
Not lately, but I'd say if we go back 5, 10, 15 years, if there was an argument, if there was a disagreement, 9 out of 10 times was me, and 100% of 10 times was because of my fears and insecurities. Okay? Not now, because my wife is my partner. I have no fear in front of my wife. I have no insecurity in front of my wife. We're partners.
Yeah. That's good, man. I love it. So, naturally you have your boys around you, so you've moved from 1 son to 3, right? So, right. So the reality, did you say 4?
I said 3 beautiful boys.
Oh, I thought you said 4. I was like, 4. I was like, y'all announcing something that I don't know about? Okay. So talk to us about their role, because they're seeing you and your wife do something that you never saw grow up. You never saw your parents excel at this level. You never saw them open up their home to other people that could come in and bless them, and then also hurt you guys. I mean, because leadership is not easy, right? Most people think, oh, it's leadership, everything goes great. No, out of 800,000 people, let me tell you, there's some people that it's not going to like you, many people that just do not like you. So I want to go back to your boys. Like, they're so intentional. I love these guys. They're so amazing. So tell us your philosophy of raising these young men in this, because you said something that has always stuck with me. It's always stuck with me, and I hope that you get to it. You said you wanted your life in front of your boys. You guys wanted to be an example and not a warning. So talk to us about that. What's your philosophy of raising your sons in this environment, in this world, with all of the amazing opportunities that you have, raising them in wealth? How are you navigating them and teaching them the foundations of not being haughty because of their ability, but being humble? Just talk to us. Talk to us about it, your philosophy.
So we go back to what I said earlier. From the ages of 1 to the age of 7, we're programmed. So my wife and I were very, very intentional, and we would speak life into our kids. We would speak possibilities into our kids. We introduced them to quantum thinking. All they've known their entire life is quantum thinking. If you ask them, is it possible? They'll say, and not because you're a pastor, but they know with Jesus Christ, all things are possible.
Right.
All things are possible. Yeah. It's not that all things will be done, but all things are possible because we have a big role too. Right? We have a gigantic role. So therefore they have been raised knowing and understanding that all things are possible. Secondly is they've also been raised with vision and with clarity.
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you want in your life? What do you believe God is calling you to do? How can you best serve Christ right now? My 23-year-old has a gift of cooking. He's not a culinary chef. He's self-taught, or he's grandma taught, right? And it's just a gift because he creates plates, not once a month. I mean, 2 to 3 times a week, because he cooks dinner for the family 4 nights a week. And it's just on a whole different level. And then we'll have people over and he's cooking for them. And it's just, they're mesmerized, right? Now he's starting a TikTok for his cooking and for catering. And that's his gift. That's his gift. And we always encourage the kids, find what God has gifted you with, right? My middle son, he's a gifted athlete. You know, he does things that other kids can't do on the football field. And he puts in the time, right? He puts the time in, he invests in his training, in his conditioning, in his rehab, in all of that. My youngest son he's a little entrepreneur. He's 15 years old and already working, already have time. So they understand that what they want has to be clear. And secondly, they have to understand that they're going to have to work very, very hard at it. Whatever it is, they're going to have to work. Let me give you a quick story. So my middle son is a D1 quarterback. He's a junior. He has 14 D1 offers. He's a starting quarterback for varsity. He never played freshman or JV. He's played varsity all 3 years. And they ranked him the '1 quarterback in the San Gabriel Valley. He's ranked, I think, number 7 in the state. He puts in the time. Well, my son, my older son, he's 6'3". My younger son is 6'1". My middle son is 5'11". Okay? Wow. So, right. So therefore, his quarterback coach told him 4 years ago, when he was 13 years old, when he was 13 years old, he was 5'4". All the other 13-year-old quarterbacks were like 5'10", 5'11". And he told him, he said, Isaiah, I have a feeling you're not going to be 6'3", 6'4". Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just looking at the kids, I have a feeling you're not going to be that 6'3", 6'4" kid. So you have to understand that you're going to have to work 2 to 3 to 4 times harder than your counterpart. You're going to have to work your best to get a little bit of recognition. And you're going to have to be emotionally okay with other guys that aren't as good as you having more recognition at first. He assumed that challenge, and he's been that way for the last 5 years. He's outward people. He shows up to a camp. There's no coach that says, ooh, look at that 5'11" Latino quarterback. No, they're like, look at that 6'4" guy. Look at that 6'6" guy. But he will outwork them. And the key word is make yourself undeniable. Make yourself. So therefore, our boys understand that they have to be clear with what God wants for them in their lives. There's going to be a time, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, that you're going to work your tail off. And you got to be, and although we have been, and we continue to be very blessed, thank the Lord, very blessed, nothing will be handed to them. Zero will be handed to them. Right. They need to go through those phases of growth. Okay. They need to go through those phases, because phase 1 in your growth work, that's when God really, really humbles you. And you need that humility before you get to phase 2 or phase 3 or phase 4. And that's when, things start flowing, because when people kind of jump over or skip over those phases and they get to the money phase or they get to the recognition phase and they don't graduate the humble phase, they can be in big trouble. So yeah. So we're very clear that God has something for them. We're very clear that they have to be clear with what it is. We're very clear that they have to have a definite plan to attain it. And there's going to be a lot of work involved. There's going to be a lot of humility involved. But when you put all those ingredients together, there's nothing's guaranteed, but there's a very good possibility that these boys are going to be successful.
Very much so. My goodness. I love the fact you said, make yourself undeniable. Undeniable.
Undeniable.
Undeniable. And the only way. Yeah, go ahead.
No, we just talked about this 3 days ago. We were sitting outside we there's a, we live in the hills overlooking the city, and we're just sitting outside. And I was telling them, both my wife and I, we said, when you make yourself undeniable, don't like they say in boxing, right? Don't leave it to don't leave it to the judges. Don't leave it to the judges. You got to go in and you got to get a knockout, right? And when we refer to knockout, is you got to knock out every day. You have to do your best every day. Steve Jobs, there's a story about Steve Jobs and when he was first making the Mac, the big computer. I remember, if you remember the big computer, and in different colors, pink, purple, blue, right? Big old things.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is they were colored on the outside, but they were also colored on the inside. And one employee said, well, why do we paint the inside? Like, it's almost double work. Like he said, the employee said, no one looks at the inside. And Steve Jobs said, but you do. You look at the inside. And because you look at the inside, it should be the best work that you've created. You need to be able to sign your name on every single PC, just like a Rembrandt, just like a Picasso, right? Just like a Michelangelo, the David, just like they sign their name. Everything you do must be at the level of a masterpiece. And I believe that many men love to take shortcuts, and those shortcuts eventually catch up to you. Make every day a masterpiece. Teach your children that every day can be a masterpiece.
I think that is a fair place to pause our conversation. There's so much that you gave us today that it's going to take some time to dissect, and going to take some time to really digest, and then not only just digest, but act upon it, metabolize it, to actually truly produce it in your walk, in your life. And we've touched on a lot of different things, man. And in our last moments, I want to honor them because they've been such a big part of your life. For a number of years, you and your wife took care of your mothers. And they got a chance to see the beautiful life that you all have created with family, and you took care of them. But they have transitioned and moved to heaven now. And they were both in their 90s. And they both were beautiful to the very end, getting to meet both of them in person, as well as, of course, seeing them online. And so talk to us about, this new season that you're in, because they've been such a big part of your life. Talk to us about navigating this new season with grief involved, but still not shutting everything down, but still moving forward into promise. And then we'll be done for today.
Jim Rohn, one of my favorite philosophers, he said, the pain of discipline weighs ounces, while the pain of regret weighs tons. And I want you to remember that. I want you to just remember that as I share this with you. When I met my wife, my father-in-law was already ill. My mother-in-law had my wife at 49. My mom had me at 43.
Wow.
So we had that in common. My father-in-law was an alcoholic. My father was a functional alcoholic. So we had a lot of things that were in common. So we knew that our parents were being much older, having us at an older age. We were just going to take care of them. It was never a doubt. It was never a conversation. It was an internal understanding. It was an unspoken understanding. So my wife and I, we lived together. We got married. We lived together for 2 years, and then we moved my father-in-law and mother-in-law in with us. My father-in-law was already incapacitated. My mother-in-law was a walking, breathing angel. Okay, this woman, not one cell of judgment in this woman's body. I've never ever met another individual whose heart was so pure, right? So, because I know men, I sometimes hear some horror stories about mother-in-laws. That's not my story, right? And about 10 years later, we moved my mom in. because my mom, she was having her second knee replacement. So often we'd say we have 5 kids, 3 boys and 2 girls, and the 2 girls are much worse than the 3 boys. And we're very blessed because, we have, and we've always had large homes. So they had their space, and it was hard. I'm just telling you, it was hard. And it was hardest on my wife because my wife just has that gift of caretaking. She took care of her dad. She took care of my mom. She took care of her mom. I helped a lot, but my help and assistance was 10, 15%, and hers was 90%. Okay. I'm talking about bathing, cleaning. I'm talking about not the fun stuff, right? And then we have been blessed because we have a woman, her name's Carmelita. She's been with us for 22, 23 years, and she's the gift from God. She loved both moms. So we were present with them. We were present with them. We celebrated them. We acknowledged them. We gave them dignity. We allowed them to have dignity and respect, especially when they couldn't fend for themselves anymore. And so my mom passed a year and a half ago, and my mother-in-law passed almost 2 months ago. Yeah. And although the flesh cries, right? Although the emotion of, because it's transitioning is very surreal. Our minds aren't created to understand transitioning because it's not something that you manage. It's not something that you deal with. You don't deal with it until you got to deal with it, right? It's not like it's a pain that's unknown until it happens, right? You burn yourself. Oh, okay. Your fingers are okay, but you already know how that pain feels, right? You cut yourself, okay, your fingers gonna be fine, but you already know how the pain of transitioning, you don't experience it until they've transitioned. And then it affects everyone differently. So one thing that my wife and I are very grateful for, and we talk about this all the time, is that we did take care of them. And they did live with us. And we believe that God shows favor for that, because it is a very unselfless act, right? And we acknowledge it now, because in this new chapter, we go out and we don't have a curfew. My wife and I, we were grown people, married for 25 years, and we knew we had to be home at 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock because our help leaves and we got to take care of the moms. And that's just what we did. And many times we left, gatherings and barbecues and parties and we didn't want to, but this is just what we did. So now this chapter where we can go and stay as long as we want. And it's okay, and our kids they're not old, but they're self-sufficient, 15, 17, and 23. They're self-sufficient, and they can cook and they can clean and they can, they don't need us to brush their teeth. It is a different phase. And my wife and I, we're creating that new phase right now as we speak. Every day we talk about it because it is a brand new chapter, especially for my beautiful wife. It is a brand new chapter that we are embracing, that we are happy, that we're grateful for. We did spend that longer chapter with our parents, and I will forever be grateful that I was able to be with my mom till her last breath, and we were able to be with my mother-in-law literally till her last breath. So going back, the pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. My friend, there is no regret. Zero regret. And I believe that God allowed us to give them a beautiful life because of the things that we did. And it's wonderful.
I love it. Well, man, my friend, thank you so very much for your time, for the wisdom that you shared with all of us. Guys, notes, guys. I have notes upon notes, and even after these notes, one of the things that I do is I go through and I really, I only highlight and I only write down the things that explode on the inside of me. And that's what John Bevere taught me years ago. It's like, don't try to write down everything, but write down the things that explode. 3 pages of explosions, guys. And I still go back and scour through those and say, okay, what can I implement now? I don't want this just to be a time where you just hear some inspirational stuff, but no, be intentional about taking action on the things that he said. Maybe you can start speaking to your wife a little different. Maybe you can start being clear with your boys and with your children. Maybe you can start really finding places to serve. I mean, just amazing how you just laid down everything. So I want to say thank you so very much. Please, everyone, go and follow him. Tell us how we can follow you. Tell us how we can be a part of the things that you're doing now.
Sure, absolutely. So I got to get this straight. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. On Facebook, you can find me as Luis Arriaza, Luis Arriaza, Arriaza. On Instagram, you can find me as Dr. Luis Arriaza, Dr. and Luis Arriaza, Luisarriaza. And on TikTok, you can find me again as Dr. Luis Arriaza. You can also find us as Dr. Luis and Evelia, Dr. Luis and Evelia, Evelia. You can find that on our Instagram and TikTok. We put up pieces of inspiration, pieces of transformation every single week, because again, both my wife and I, we were very, very blessed to have people in our lives help transform us by the spoken word. And that's what we've dedicated our life to.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so very much, Dr. Luis, a man of sacrifice, selflessness, service, and success. We appreciate you. Lions, you know what to do. We got to take action on these things. So I want you to comment in the community. Let us know which 3 action items you're going to take action on so that you can actually restore the roar in life, love, leadership, and legacy. All right, guys, we'll see you real soon.